I'm James Rule. Welcome to the Lonely Leader podcast, where we help existing and aspiring leaders find clarity, build resilience, drive performance, and enhance fulfillment. The Leadership Essentials series is proving to be really popular with the Lonely Leader community. So today we're diving into another essential, and that is lifelong learning. And this takes me right back to the origin of the Lonely Leader business. People often ask, where did the name come from? And one of the driving forces was my frustration in people creating a sense of loneliness and isolation, particularly in senior leadership. It stems from an inability, a reluctance to show any sort of vulnerability, any sort of skill or knowledge gap to those that they report into, above them, more senior to them, or indeed to the people they're tasked with leading. That was one of the areas I wanted to debunk, that no leader is expected to have every answer to every problem and be the best in every position. I always use the sports analogy. You don't play striker of the team and goalkeeper of a soccer team. You're not the wicketkeeper and the bowler in a cricket team. The analogies go on and on and on. Everybody has specialisms. As a leader, yes, you have an overview, but you're not expected to have all the answers. And the other driving force behind the name was that people losing sight of the need to keep learning and developing. We all start our journey, predominantly most of us, in school, where learning is an accepted rite of passage. Many of us go into some form of further or higher education or some sort of apprenticeship, vocational training to continue to learn. We step into our professional roles, and there's an onboarding process, and there's an introduction to skill and knowledge to help us step into that role. But then something strange happens. As we get into more senior positions, it's like our ability to learn stops. For many of us, we say, well, we're too busy. But actually, I think there's a more noble pursuit, that we're outward looking and we're thinking we need to protect our staff, invest in our staff. So I meet a lot of leaders that are actively engaged in helping support the growth and development of their staff, but they're not doing anything for themselves. So it feeds back into this notion of isolation and loneliness, that we're neglecting our own growth and development. And it doesn't need to be that way. It's the old adage of you've got to put your own oxygen mask on first before you help others. So the first and abiding principle I want from this podcast is give yourself permission. It's not a luxury to keep learning. It's a necessity. Investing in your growth and development will enhance you as an individual, but by doing that, it will enhance your leadership ability and the impact you have on the people that you lead. So it is the ultimate win-win. And in order to really step into this, I think there are two key positionings that I'd like to share. One is curiosity. If you have that curious nature, if you're willing to always ask the questions that need to be asked, then you will open doors to learning opportunities. And there's a great quote from Mahatma Gandhi: persistent questioning and healthy inquisitiveness are the first requisites for acquiring learning of any kind. So stay curious. Don't be embarrassed to ask obvious questions. Other people in the room will be thinking that, and have the humility to be very open and show that you don't always have all of the answers. But by asking questions, you will minimize those blind spots and those areas where you genuinely don't have the answers. It ties into the second notion that I'd like to frame this episode around: accelerated learning. It's something I talk a lot about in my coaching and mentoring work. It's something you will have heard me talk about a lot on this very podcast. I'm a big believer that very few of us walk an untrodden path. Whatever facet of your life that you think of that you want to develop and improve in, as I ask you that question now, what comes to mind? Perhaps it's your professional role. Has anybody ever done a role similar to yours before? I would wager yes. Perhaps you're thinking about how to become a better parent. Has anybody walked the parenting path ahead of you? Without a shadow of a doubt. Perhaps you want to become fitter and healthier. Has anyone walked that path? Yes. You want to be more present as a partner, as a husband, as a wife. People have focused on those challenges. So why stumble along those paths, making the same mistakes, falling into the same traps, obstacles, and quagmires that other people have found themselves slowed and frustrated by, when you can engage with people who have walked the path ahead of you, ask the pertinent questions, learn from their journey, avoid those obstacles, that quagmire, and find the shortcuts, the routes to get to the end destination in a more effective, efficient, and accelerated fashion. So that's a big driver for me around learning. Why wouldn't we want to stand on the shoulders of giants, walk the path, and learn from those who have walked the path ahead of us? As my backdrop suggests, I love to read. It's a passion, it's a hobby, but it's also the fuel for my growth. I love to read around leadership, leaders within history, and learn from their challenges and the wisdom that they disseminate within their own biographies, within autobiographies, or within historical references to the journey and the path that they've walked. So pulling out 2 or 3 leaders that really talk to me when I think about the notion of continual learning. Admiral James Stavridis, who was the former 4-star US Navy Admiral. He was also the NATO Supreme Allied Commander. So someone who sat at the very top of the military hierarchy. And he was a big advocate of cross-disciplinary knowledge, acquiring knowledge from business, from politics, from history, from literature. He was an author himself. He had a PhD. All of that aligns with this notion of continual learning. And I love that expression of cross-disciplinary knowledge, that you can integrate knowledge from different fields, different leaders to complement your existing leadership DNA. You are a unique individual. You will have your own way of doing things, but why not enhance that by gaining perspectives from as diverse array of sources and individuals as possible? Another leader, different sector, is the sadly deceased Kobe Bryant, a former NBA basketball superstar, revered for his work ethic and his desire to improve. And yes, the work ethic is a key part of that, but so is the desire to learn, to reflect, to gather knowledge, insight, and wisdom, and then combine it with that relentless work ethic. I think they were the 2 components of propelling his success, but not just on the court. After he retired, he won an Oscar, an Academy Award, for Dear Basketball. He became a children's author as well, and he launched his own media company. And you see that a lot with high-profile leaders, that they're able to step between different sectors, different roles, but whatever they do, they've got an undoubted curiosity. They're willing to ask the questions. They look for those opportunities to accelerate the learning, and then they bring that cross-disciplinary knowledge and align it with the work ethic that served them so well in their previous chapters of their career to continue their success. Staying within the sporting arena, Bill Belichick, one of the most decorated coaches in the NFL, revered again from studying intensely the history and the aspects of the game, elements that have gone before him, and interpreting the knowledge and the wisdom into the modern arena. So that principle of know your field, know the detail and have the knowledge of that which has gone before, but then adapt it and apply it. So he was famous for watching endless footage of teams going back through the ages. Why? Looking for knowledge within his sector, becoming a specialist in his sector. That desire for continual learning didn't dissipate just because he'd achieved success and won a Super Bowl. It continued and allowed him to be a key component in building a legacy with the New England Patriots. With pretty much every aspect of growth and development, it's easy to dismiss and say, well, I don't have time. And I'm not in any way, shape or form disrespecting the pressures that will undoubtedly be on your time. But if I had $1, a pound, a euro for every time someone had uttered that as their initial defensive position against a request or an idea for growth and development, then I'd be a very wealthy man. And we have to find ways to step through that objection and to create the time. And on this very subject, I remember Tony Robbins talking about net time, which was an acronym you've probably come across, no extra time. The notion of aligning learning opportunities and the acquisition of knowledge with more mundane tasks. And we are blessed to be in the technological age that we are in, with innovations such as audiobooks and podcasts, that we can download and consume information alongside those mundane tasks. So previously, you would not be able to read a book whilst you're mowing the lawn. You would not be able to read a book whilst you are walking the dog or taking a jog. But now you can do just that. So I encourage you to start thinking about, where is that net time opportunity? Turn the news off, turn the TV off in the kitchen when you're preparing dinner, have a podcast on. If you have a lengthy commute or you're stuck in traffic, you can reach into your phone and you can enjoy enhancing your learning utilizing this simple premise of net time. Another reference point I want to put in front of you is learn from your team. Learn from those around you. We said earlier about having the humility to open yourself up a little bit and ask the obvious questions to show that you don't have the answers to all of the situations you face. But there will be a rich layer of intelligence all around you, in your friendship group, in your family, in your colleagues, in your customers. And simply being willing to be curious and ask questions opens the door to that intelligence and that learning. But nobody knows what you need unless you ask. So those doors remain closed unless you take the first step and are willing to learn and willing to step into that curiosity. Now, obviously, as I read, quotes are popping off the pages all the time. I have notebooks filled with quotes that inspire me and motivate me, and I like to share them at the relevant juncture. And this is one of those moments. So a couple of quotes that really talk to me when it comes to the notion of continuous learning. Leadership and learning are indispensable to each other. That was John F. Kennedy, the former US president. If you are not willing to learn, no one can help you. If you are determined to learn, no one can stop you. And that was Zig Ziglar. And the last, but one of my favorites undoubtedly in terms of framing this continual process of learning, investing in yourself is the best investment you will ever make. It will not only improve your life, it will improve the lives of all those around you. And that's the author Robin Sharma, and it frames perfectly everything we're talking about. This may be your first podcast, and if it is, I hope you're enjoying it. If it's not, you'll be familiar with the fact that I always like to wrap an episode up with some simple, actionable takeaways. The initial meat of the episode is to prompt reflection, to make you reflect on, am I embracing this particular theme? And if you're not, well, step into some of the takeaways. Tip number 1, pick up a new book for the month. Identify something a little bit out of your normal comfort zone, your normal genre. Think about something that you can learn from, different perspectives. Buy it, physical, audio, it doesn't matter. Make a commitment to try and get it done and digested within the month. My second tip, create your net time. Think of those mundane tasks that you have to do, the lawn, cleaning the cars, whatever it may be, and think, right, that's where I'm going to listen to an audiobook. It is truly amazing when you make it a habit how many books you can get through or how many podcast episodes you can get through without having to create any extra time in your working week or your personal downtime at a weekend. My third tip, challenge yourself to ask somebody for advice. I don't mind where you go, whether you go to somebody more senior in the organization, somebody more junior, a customer, it doesn't really matter. But put yourself out there, ask somebody for advice, let them know about something you're reflecting on, something you might be struggling with, and see what doors open and what wisdom flows your way by taking that first courageous step. My fourth tip, identify someone you admire and study them. Now, this aligns perfectly with tip number 1. Perhaps this will influence the book that you buy, or perhaps it's somebody that you can actually get access to. Maybe it's remote access, it's a Zoom call, maybe it's listening to the podcast, or maybe it is someone you can genuinely meet face to face. But if there's somebody you admire, make the uncomfortable step to approach them and ask them for support. It's uncomfortable, and as a consequence, I meet so many people who know who they would ask, but they don't ask. Why don't they ask? It's an inbuilt fear of rejection. They don't want to bother them, but fundamentally, they're fearful of them saying no. The simple script that I've rolled out repeatedly in other episodes, approach somebody and say, I really admire or respect what you have achieved in area X. Would it be okay for me to meet with you at some point and seek your advice on how you achieved it, some of the obstacles you overcome and some of the lessons you learned in the process? Very few people are going to say no to that. So identify someone you respect and you'd like to learn from and make that connection. My next tip, start a lessons learned journal. Have a notebook that has some symbolism. It's not just an amalgamation of your to-do list, calls to be made, emails to be sent. It's somewhere that you can deposit the knowledge you acquire. Maybe it's insights from books you've read, podcasts you've listened to. Maybe it's insights from conversations that have taken place. But have somewhere that you can store it. We've all been guilty of that sort of butterfly effect. We hear something, we think, I must remember, and then it floats away. An idea, a concept, a reflection. Have somewhere that you can grab them. Maybe use the notes app on your phone. That's where you start, and then you put it into that journal at a later date. But if we're going to grow and learn, we need somewhere to take stock and to download and deposit those learnings. The next tip to consider is create your own round table. It's a bit of a mastermind concept. You might be familiar with that. Anyone who's read the timeless classic Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill will be familiar with his really passionate articulation of the value of a mastermind. I like the notion of a round table. It's not about just a granular discussion of the day-to-day things that are going on in your life. It's a place where you can really pull out those big challenges, those things that are truly vexing you, that you're wrestling with, and have an environment where people will challenge you, that will support you. And I'm encouraging clients to set these round tables up, and it's been very, very powerful to see the results, because you will find that people have perspective, wisdom, and insight from their own journey. They've sometimes encountered the very same situation. So rather than suffer in silence, going back to that notion of the lonely leader, you open yourself up to wisdom, insights, and perspectives from those people that are around you. Maybe they exist within your organization, maybe they're outside, maybe it's a hybrid, a combination of people within and external to your organization. But why not try and bring a group together periodically, once a month, bi-weekly, virtual or face-to-face, it doesn't matter, but facilitate that supportive environment where you support each other's learning. And the last point is allow your actions to drive the learning culture. If you want any habit, trait, philosophy to be a part of the culture of your organization, you need to demonstrate its importance through your actions and your words. If people that you lead see you embracing learning opportunities, asking those questions, creating roundtables, showing the humility to show that you don't have all the answers, then they will do the same. And if we can truly embed and foster a learning culture across the entire organization, then that rising tide undoubtedly lifts all boats. Everybody wins. Everybody recognizes the need to keep learning, seeking new perspectives for their individual and the collective betterment of the group and the business as a whole. Once again, common sense isn't always common practice, a phrase I use a lot. There'll be elements of this that you'll say, well, it's so obvious, but are you doing it? Has your trajectory of learning started like this early in life and started to level off or even decline? Now's the time to take action to implement some of these things. And as I said at the start, do not see it as a nice to have or a luxury. It's a necessity. Your growth and development enhances your ability to lead, enhances your performance and leadership impact, and that benefits you, but everybody around you. So make it a necessity, make it a priority, and put learning right at the forefront of your short-term, medium, and long-term planning. I wish you the best of luck on the journey. Thanks for listening to the Lonely Leader podcast. I'd be very grateful if you could share and follow if the content resonates. And if you're looking for additional free resource to support your continued growth and development, then please do check out our social media and website details in the show notes. Remember, quality leadership on the outside must always start within.